Hello everyone, another video which means another platinum. And I was very excited to do this one because it's Elden Ring. Elden Ring is a game that I really enjoyed when it first released back in 2022. It's a phenomenal game and I believe it deserves all the praise that it gets. However, because of how I originally played Elden Ring, I ended up getting burnt out, so I put it down and unfortunately, for whatever reason, I just never went back to it, which is kind of a bad habit for me. Until this video, which not only did I finally go back and finish it, but I also got the platinum trophy. Elden Ring has 41 trophies needed for the platinum, and a majority of them are related to the bosses, alongside a couple of story progression and collectibles. But there are 3 that are related to which ending of the game you get. Those 3 being the Elden Lord, Age of Stars, and Lord of the Frenzy Flame ending. So I made 3 different characters, and each would be focused on primarily getting a specific ending while getting some other trophies along the way. I'm not very good at naming characters, so their names are just bronze, gold, and silver. I listed out what trophies I planned on getting and what builds I wanted to use with each of them, but other than that I didn't really plan for much else. Starting things off with bronze, we'll be getting the Elden Lord ending, which is the standard ending and doesn't require anything besides beating the final boss. Besides a few optional bosses, bronze would be getting a majority of the story related trophies. Having not played a Souls game in nearly 2 years, I was insanely rusty, and there was no better way to shake off that rust than by fighting the tree sentinel. I had some fun running around and fighting some random bosses before going to take on my first story boss. Taking down Margit lets me enter Stormveil Castle, and I thought I might as well take the quickest way to Godric.
Return together to our home, bathed in rays of gold.
In Liurnia, I pick up the weapon I'm going to use for the rest of this playthrough, the Executioner's Great Axe. Luckily it dropped without taking too many tries, and after upgrading it to +6, I went straight for Magma Worm Makar. With Trogoff and Aurelia's help, I can now go to Altus Plateau. In Altus, I went around killing bosses for runes to level up and upgrade my axe. After getting it to +13, I went to take on Star Scourge Radahn. When I originally played Elden Ring, I used all the summons in the arena to fight Radahn because I just think it's a cool way to fight a boss. But this time I thought I might as well do the 1v1 just to say that I did it, you know? It was a bit of a close call at the end, but enough hits in the junk will take any demigod down. With Radahn killed, I can enter Lanedale Capital and immediately go for more guys. Honestly, it was a bit of a sloppy fight on my part, but win's a win. I summoned Alexander to help with the fire giant, which I'm very glad that I did because trying to get good hits on him during phase 2 was not going well for me. Melina burns the Ur tree and I get teleported to Fair Missoula. With Bernaro's help, the Godskin duo isn't too bad, and I upgrade my axe to +25. Before taking on Malekith, I decide to fight the optional boss of the area, Dragon Lord Prestigious Axe. Assiduous was the first boss in this playthrough that I had zero experience with, so he was kind of my first real challenge throughout this run. I moved on to fight Malekith, who ended up giving me a decent amount of trouble because he moves around a decent amount, and it also took me a while to relearn the timings of his attacks. But once I did, killing him starts the final section of the game. Now comes what I like to call the final four, starting with Gideon. Killing Gideon so easily, after remembering how much of a pain in the ass he was on my first playthrough, was so satisfying. Poor Lou got the best of me on the first attempt, but on the second, Nefeli stayed alive, which helped a lot. And she even got the kill, which I wasn't a big fan of, but that's what I get for summoning, right? It was finally time for the fight with Ratigan, which, just so you know, was the boss where I got burnt out and stopped playing. So this had me a bit excited and nervous at the same time because it felt like a slight redemption for me personally. Learning Ratigan started off really bad for me. I was doing decent damage, but I was taking a bunch at the same time. And I was especially having trouble with the triple hammer slam. At first it felt so difficult to dodge, like the first one just felt instant, but after a lot of trial and error, and also after upgrading my blast, so I didn't have to drink 3 after every hit, which was obviously pretty stupid on my part, I finally made it past Ratigan. Learning Elden Beast felt a lot easier than Ratigan, probably because it's a bigger enemy with much more telegraphed moves. Also, I really appreciate being able to use Torrent during this fight, which apparently wasn't always the case. Shout out to those of you who did this fight without him, because I'm not sure how much more difficult it was, but I can already tell it was way more annoying. I felt like I was getting really close to beating Elden Beast, but I was taking too much damage to make it to the end. You can say skill issue if you want, which is probably fair in this context, but I decided to go pick up some armor with better holy defense, and a talisman which would boost it even more, which I think was the right choice because a few attempts after making those changes, this happened. With that, Bronze takes her place on the Elden Throne, popping the Elden Lord trophy. Next up is Gold, who is going to get the Lord of Frenzy Flame ending, which I thought involved a quest line, but come to find out it doesn't at all, and all I have to do is go to the underground sewers to get marked by the 3 fingers. Aside from the Frenzy ending, I also want to do some of the more out-of-the-way bosses. Once I beat Godric, go to the round table and talk with the 2 fingers, I progressed with Vare's questline so I could teleport to Mogwin Palace. There I did the bird rune farming for a while, and once I felt that I properly overleveled myself, I was ready to take on the Volcano Manor. First I had to fight the Godskin Noble, not only for a trophy that it pops, or to get access to Rykard, but also so I can get my main weapons for this playthrough. I heard that the Magma Blade had a terribly low drop rate, and I was ready for a multi-hour grinding session trying to get it, but I got both of mine in like under an hour, which I don't know if I was just lucky or maybe people just really over-exaggerate how hard they are to get. Either way, with that done, I can go take on Rykard. I know some people don't like these types of gimmick fights in Souls games, but personally I think they're pretty fun, so I don't really mind them. With Rykard killed, I can enter Lanedale Capital. I enter the sewers and quickly make my way through it to fight the weaker version of Moog. It takes a couple tries because apparently Moog has high fire negation, but also I was being a bit too impatient with his combos. So I kept getting punished for attacking at bad times. Once I defeated Moog, I had to face one of my greatest weaknesses, platforming. This took much longer than I cared to admit. At the Grace right before the Three Fingers, Melina tries to get me to change my mind, but I didn't suffer through that platforming section for nothing. I'm going to get this trophy. After getting marked by the Three Fingers and getting dumped by Melina, all I needed to do now was fight the remaining story bosses until the end. Before getting the ending, I went back to Mogwin Palace to fight the actual Lord of Blood Moog. Fighting the weaker version in the sewers actually helped me a lot for this fight, but it still ended up being a pretty close call. With that done, it was time to finish this playthrough by getting the Frenzy Flame ending. Now, I think it's good to have a positive attitude about most things, but I also think it's healthy to express negative emotions from time to time, which I'll be doing right now by saying, for me personally, this ending fucking sucked. I get no satisfaction from getting this ending, and if there wasn't a trophy attached to it, I wouldn't bother. I just feel like there's nothing good about it. I get it has some value in terms of like world building and lore, but who gives a fuck? Torrent dies, dude. The creature that specifically chose me and is with me throughout the entire journey fucking died. And for what? I just feel like a fucking asshole. What do I get for betraying Torrent besides having a pissed off, freaky looking Melina wanting to slit my throat? And she has every reason to. Not to mention I wasted time on Hyetta's questline because I thought it was necessary for the ending, just to find out it doesn't affect it in any way at all. So the only real quest related to this specific ending is just completely skippable. Yeah, I just don't get it. I don't think it's worth it. Whatever, I'm done ranting. Moving on. It's time for the third and final playthrough with Silver. The Age of Stars ending requires me to do Ranni's questline, which has some very important items needed for other trophies, primarily the legendary items. There are 9 weapons, 8 talismans, 7 sorceries / incantations, and 6 Ashen Remains or Spirit Ashes, which are all considered legendary items. Not only are there 3 legendary items locked behind Ranni's quest, but it's also needed to fight Lich Dragon Fortisax, who's also worth a trophy. So Ranni's questline is pretty important if I want to get to Platinum. With all that said, I start off by meeting Selen and giving her a scroll so I can learn Carrion Slicer. With this, I go kill Bernardo to get my first legendary weapon. After that, I basically repeated the same thing I did for Gold's playthrough. Kill Godric, Varus questline, rune farming. Once that was done, I went to Castle Morn to get another legendary weapon from the Misbegotten boss. Before leaving the Weeping Peninsula, I defeated the Cemetery Shade and the Tombsword Catacombs to get my first legendary Spirit Ash. I head to Karya Manor in Liurnia to start Ranni's questline where she wants me to help find a hidden treasure in Nokron, but doesn't know how to get there. Long story short, Selen tells me I have to kill Star Scourge Radahn. But before doing that, I grab a legendary weapon inside Karya Manor, and kill Aiden to get my first legendary incantation. After Radahn is killed, I can now go to Nokron, but I decided to do a bit of cleanup before that. I beat another catacomb boss for a legendary spear dash. I killed the big dragon and went to Dragon Communion to get his legendary incantation. For the first time in all of these playthroughs, I finally go to Raya Lucaria to get a legendary talisman, but to also beat Renala. I head back to Redmane Castle for a fight against 2 bosses that will give another legendary weapon. Once that was all done, I quickly made my way through Nokron, grabbing what most people think is the best legendary spear dash, Mimic Tier. I don't use it, but I assume it's pretty good. But more importantly, the Finger Slayer blade, which is needed to progress Ranni's questline. After handing the blade over to Ranni, she gives me a statue and leaves. But before I further progress with her quest, I use the statue she gave me to quickly, and I mean quickly, go to the Divine Tower where I can find her original body, and the Cursed Mark of Death, which is needed for Fia's quest to fight Fortisax. With that done, I follow after Ranni to what I think is probably the part of her quest that makes most people really like her, because she for whatever reason has decided to inhabit a much smaller doll-sized body. I guess she was trying to be stealthy, but it comes off as a funny and cute mistake on her part. So going on this little adventure with Mini Ranni, she opens up and talks about herself more.
A dogged fellow, aren't we? Or is it merely thy habit to talk to dolls? Fine. Fine. I hadn't expected any soul to recognize me in this guise. But now the cat is out the bag. I stole the rune of death, slew mine own Empyrean flesh, casting it away. I would not be controlled by that thing. The 2 fingers and I have been cursing each other ever since, and the baleful shadows are their assassins.
So yeah, at first I didn't really get why people were so in love with Ranni, because her design is good and she has a nice voice. However, it wasn't until I got to this part that I actually started to like Ranni as a character, and I can understand more of why people would fall in love with her, or why she might be some people's favorite NPC in the game. Unfortunately, good things always come to an end, and after killing the baleful shadow, Ranni says her goodbyes and gives me a discarded key. Before continuing, I get Lutel to +10, and then stop by Raya Lucaria to use the key Ranni gave me to open a chest that gives me the Dark Moon Ring. After killing Astel, I find Ranni. And with this, Ranni's questline is done. Now all I have to do is finish the game to get the Age of Stars ending. But I still have a few bosses and legendary items that I need to go do. From finishing Ranni's quest, I get the Dark Moon Greatsword, which is going to be my weapon for the rest of the playthrough. I immediately get it to +10, and I go back to the Moonlight Altar to do the Turtle Puzzle to get another legendary sorcery, and also do an Everjail boss to get another legendary Spear Dash. I make my way to Azur and get his legendary sorcery, which allows me to go back to Selene, and she gives me access to Lusat, and he'll give me another legendary sorcery. I finished the rest of Selene's questline. You don't need to for like a trophy or anything, but I thought I might as well. And when I was done with that, I go to Altus Plateau to defeat Godfroy. I do the Sainted Hero's Grave Catacombs, and killing the boss gives me another legendary Spear Dash. In the capital, I grab the Bolt of Grandsax, which is another legendary weapon, and also a missable one, so it's pretty important to get it as soon as possible before progressing through the main story. I go to Shaded Castle to fight Elmer of the Briar, who not only is worth a trophy by himself, but also drops another legendary weapon. With nothing left to do in Altus Plateau or the capital, I take on Morgoth and make my way into the mountaintops of the Giant. I stop by Castle Sol, first to grab my second to last legendary weapon, and also kill Commander Nile, so I have access to the consecrated snowfield. Next, I go over the invisible bridge that connects to the heretical rise and open the chest at the top for another legendary sorcerer. I go to the consecrated snowfield and immediately go fight the misbegotten crusader, who drops the last legendary weapon I need to pop the trophy. Next, I make my way through Mikola's Halic tree as fast as I can, defeat Loretta, and enter Elfell. Elfell. I don't know how to say it. Whatever. I open a chest that has the last Spear Dash I need for a trophy. There are also 2 more legendary talismans here. I got those, and before I left, I also got the Grace right next to Melania's boss room, so I can fight her later. I go back to the main story to let Melina burn the Erd Tree, sending me to Farum Azula where I pick up another legendary talisman. Before I fight Malekith, I go to Deep-Root Depths to finish Fia's quest, so I can fight Lich Dragon Fortisax. On the way, I stop to get the final legendary incantation I need. The last legendary talisman only appears after defeating Malekith, so I immediately go get it, which means I've finished all the trophies related to legendary items.
Queen Marika has our hopes for us. Brave, tarnished.
After taking on the final four, there was only one more thing I needed to do before the ending. Time to fight Melania.
Now, rot.
You know, it felt a bit more like luck than skill, but a win's a win in my book. So I'll take what I can get. Now the Age of Stars trophy is all that's left.
Well then, shall we? My fair consort eternal.
And with that, Elden Ring's Platinum Trophy is mine. Man, I love this game. I'm so happy I finally finished it. Also, fun little fact, it's the only other Platinum I've gotten for a Souls game. I did get Bloodborne's Platinum back in the day, but obviously that's on my other account, so maybe I'll try to get it on this account later down the line. But I might not do the 3 different characters next time. I know there are faster ways of getting all 3 of the endings. I think you can actually do all 3 if you don't mind doing some save scumming, which, you know, not a big deal. But there's also just doing New Game Plus runs, which I think are also pretty fast. I just thought for the video it'd be more fun and interesting to make 3 different characters, but I don't know. Maybe it worked, maybe it didn't. As a game, I highly recommend Elden Ring. As for the Platinum, I think it's pretty simple. The only reason I wouldn't recommend it is if you just don't like Souls games, which is fair, they aren't for everybody. But I do believe if you've never played a Souls game, then I think Elden Ring is a great place to start. The game really lets you choose how difficult you want to make it. And more importantly, I just think it's a lot of fun. Anyway, if you made it this far into the video, let me know what you thought by leaving a comment. If not, I would still greatly appreciate a like and subscribe. But more importantly, thanks for watching and be safe. Bye bye.